big swings.
Well, here it comes. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow! In your life have you seen anything like that?
Big moments.
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer.
All the news, all the views.
The career grand slam belongs to Corey Webb.
Welcome to the PGA Golf Club.
And welcome to the PGA Golf Club this week. I'm really looking forward to this week. It's Adam White here, but I'm joined by Brendon Goddard as I am most weeks. BJ, good morning.
Whitey, you look forward to this now every week. Is
No,
this
I do.
your favourite part of the week?
It is my favourite part of the week, I must confess. But it's going to be a really interesting chat today because we have got one of your good friends in here as our co-host this week, and that is Marcus Fraser. Marcus, thanks very much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Thank you.
Now, the reason why I'm really looking forward to this week is because we get some real insights into being a professional golfer because we're doing this on a Monday morning, recording this on a Monday morning, and Marcus, you have been all over the world in the last 3 weeks. You've just come off a plane from Perth, having played in Kalgoorlie over the last 4 days in the WA PGA. It's not necessarily a glamorous life being a professional golfer.
No, for me, it started about 3 weeks ago. I think I flew on the Saturday night to Scotland, got there Sunday afternoon, played the Dunhill Links. Then I went to go to Madrid on the Monday through London, and then Madrid. Missed the cut in Spain, and then went Madrid, Doha, KL for a day, and then on to Perth. Landed at 2 a.m. Went around to the domestic airport. Arrived in Kalgoorlie 7 o'clock Tuesday morning. Went to the motel for a quick snooze. Out and played 9 holes, and then the Pro-Am Wednesday and into the tournament Thursday. So it was few time zones ticked off, and all of a sudden we're back in Melbourne.
That is an extreme, but at the same point it's not abnormal. It happens quite a bit for a professional golfer, particularly one that's playing on the European Tour, which is essentially the World Tour.
Yeah, I think for Aussies playing in Europe, we travel more than any other golfer in the world. I think that, I think when I was playing full-time over there, I was doing probably 4 or 5 return trips in the space of 4 or 5 months. So it... when you go on and then you expect
back then it was the pointy end.
Yeah, back then it was the nice seats, but now it's not anymore. But and then you expect not only you expect yourself to play well, but everyone expects you to go there and play well. And you're still on. You get over to Europe and you're still on an Australian time zone, and you feel like falling asleep mid round sometimes. But I think it's just one of those things. You try and get sleep when you can get it, and try and be as fresh as you possibly can when you're out there.
So we've got Ian Baker-Finch as our feature guest today, which we're obviously really looking forward to chatting to Ian after being named only recently as the coach or the captain, whatever you want to say, for the Australian team for the Olympics next year. And the WPGA champ will join us. Tell us a little bit about, because you're obviously on course this week for the PGA, Brendon, following the leaders around, and you saw quite an extraordinary finish to the event.
Yeah, well... I said to Fraser before, this will be like the 6th time I've interviewed and spoke with Darren.
Darren Beck was the winner,
Darren
of
Beck,
course.
that is. So the New South Welshman, Cronulla, I think he's from. What did I see? On Sunday, yesterday, that is. Feels like a while ago. Struggled on the front 9. Overnight leader by 1 shot. Struggled on the front 9 Sunday. Jared Felton looked like he's in complete control. 4-shot lead at the turn. Birdie 10 to go 4 ahead. And from there on in, it was extraordinary events. Actually, Jared missed a good birdie chance on 11 to go 5 ahead. And Darren holed this 8-footer, which he was greenside in 2. He thinned it over the back. Practically short side himself, hit it to 8 feet, and then hole a putt, and then from there, that was the start of his 8 1-putts to finish the round to shoot 6 under.
8 putts he had on the final round,
and the one that didn't count was about a foot and a half off the green on the 13th hole on a par 3. So in the space of 2 holes, is a 4-shot swing because Jared made 2 kind of weak bogeys, and Darren 2 birdies, so 4-shot swing, and then from there on in, he actually made an unbelievable par on 15. Hit it left in a hazard. Lie was horrendous. It was actually below his feet by a couple of feet, and then hit as good a shot as he could down the fairway, and then hit an average chip from about 60 yards to the back edge of the green to about 12 feet, and then hold this thing straight downhill. Fell on its last rotation at the end, and then from there, hole another bomb on 17 off on the edge of the green, and then had a 2-shot lead going down 18. So, it was pretty impressive. So, things changed. So Jared, I was actually quite impressed. He didn't necessarily lose it, just made 2 weak bogeys, 2 bad tee shots. But he had a guy that was just literally found a red-hot putter in the space of 9 holes.
How did you enjoy being the on-course commentator, coming from a football background? Obviously, you love your golf and you're very good at it and you understand the way the game is played, but how did you find the transition?
Oh, yeah, loved it. Fraser's probably chuckling. I was in my element. I got there Thursday, so it was my first time and the production team's first time doing the golf in Kalgoorlie, so we got there to acclimatise and get comfortable with everything, so we actually didn't start recording until the Saturday. So I was there and was out on course with Fraser Thursday, Friday, although he tried to get me to pull his bag, but I didn't do that. Just grabbed the flag a few times. I was in the cart on Friday in particular when it was 35 degrees. Thursday was 39 degrees. And then thankfully for the players it cooled down on the weekend. But yeah, loved it. So in the action, albeit a smaller event in Australia, but Kalgoorlie Golf Course was great to see. Obviously a unique landscape with the red earth and what they've done there has been really impressive, and only going to get better with the Hilton Doubletree being built there starting soon, I think. So I think they're expecting it to be nearly finished before the boys return there next year. So yeah, had a good week, and as you mentioned, off the red eye, both of us straight into this. So
yeah, you're both very tired. So I'll try and be as enthusiastic as I can to keep the mood up. Marcus, take us through. You go from a situation where you're playing in Scotland, playing some of the most famous golf courses in the world. Then 2 weeks later, you're playing Kalgoorlie with Spain in between. This might sound a silly question, but do you use the same clubs? Or do you have different clubs for cold conditions compared to hot conditions? Take us through how many clubs you actually take with you to make that determination, how many you carry in your bag.
Yeah, I mean, especially playing links golf courses, you might knock the loft down in your driver a little bit because you obviously get some pretty fast fairways, and which in the old days you used to travel with an extra driver, but now you can just adjust the setting and do it, so you don't really need to travel with too much. But I think we're pretty spoilt in Europe, so along the way you pick up a few extra toys here and there. So it's but yeah, I don't really.
Well, I do anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, they go disappearing out of my bag sometimes when I play with Beach. But no, I think for me, I don't really like to change too often. I mean, I'm always on the search for something better, but at the same time, I like that continuity in my bag to, really make sure that I'm comfortable with what I'm using. But a lot of guys do mix it up quite a bit. But yeah, I'm probably one of the rare ones. I think that I just leave it as is. But I think playing the links course is definitely, if you're going to change some clubs, maybe taking a hybrid out and putting a 2-iron in, and obviously you want to get the ball on the ground as much as you possibly can in links course, as opposed to the following week in Madrid where we played at altitude. So you're trying to get up as high as you possibly can.
Yeah.
I think we were nearly about 2,000 feet in Madrid, so all of a sudden you go from hitting it pretty low to trying to get up in the air. So it is a big adjustment, and sometimes your equipment can help you there.
Does it take a while to adjust from a situation where it was from Scotland to playing in altitude the next week to playing in the desert, essentially, in Kalgoorlie? Or is that the experience help with that to make the adjustment, or do you need to legitimately get out there perhaps a little bit earlier in the week and actually work out what the change in distance is going to be?
Yeah, I think it's just part of, when you're a little bit more experienced, I think it's just part of your process and part of your preparation that you know what to expect. And, I had a young kid I was helping out last week in Kalgoorlie that, he was only 19 years of age, and, I went onto my phone and said to him, we're at altitude this week in Kalgoorlie, and he had no idea that I think we
I
were
had no
about
idea either.
yeah, I think we were about
Did you know
400.
that Kalgoorlie is at altitude?
Yeah, I think it's
no
about
idea.
470 metres. So it's probably about 3 or 4% when it
Okay.
warms up to about 30 degrees.
Yeah.
You're probably getting half a club of help just through
Right.
the air. So, and then we played 9 holes on the Tuesday afternoon, and there was a different wind direction that was forecast for the rest of the week, and just little things like that. He wasn't expecting the wind to turn around, but I mean, just part of having done it so many times before, you're checking the full week's forecast when you get out to the course for the first time, because as you know, especially in Melbourne, the wind can change pretty quickly, and the golf course can play completely different in the space of a couple of hours. So just little things like that. You almost catch yourself learning a little bit when you're trying to point out something to a younger player and helping them out. You almost catch yourself out a little bit and remind yourself. And so that was good. But yeah, it definitely changes week to week in a big way.
So you're essentially a part-time player now. You've sort of cut back your commitments a little bit. You wouldn't think that, having gone through your last 3 weeks.
Yes.
How does that affect you as a golfer now? Because you're not playing as much. You're at home a bit more, which that changes life considerably more with the family. Are you still as good a golfer as you were, or where are the changes you're starting to pick up?
Yeah, I think I feel like I'm still as good a player, but I just think not having week-to-week tournaments, playing. I think this is the first time I played 3 weeks in a row all year, so I felt like I played really good for 3 weeks, but just by not playing, you somehow managed to make the silly mistakes, and which I did last week as well, but which I'm sure Beach will bring up.
Bring that up.
I think the biggest thing for me, I've always found that if I've had a break and I go back out, the first week I always make some pretty silly errors. Even though I've been doing this for 20 years, you still manage to do it, and you gradually just learn over that stretch of 2 or 3 weeks to nut those out. And then, it's just one of those things. It's just the game that we play. It keeps popping up, and just when you think you've got it sorted out, you don't. You're a million miles away. So, but that's all right. It's the way it goes, and I'm sure I'll continue to make those mistakes, but hopefully not as much.
Yeah, I mean, because it's interesting that as a very entertaining golfer as I am, BJ, but just not a very good one, if you don't play for 2 weeks, you kind of lose your swing and you can't remember the things you're meant to do and all those sorts of things. In a situation with you where you go from country to country, or almost continent to continent to continent, do you find that it's hard to keep your swing, or because you're playing so regularly it just comes back straight away, that you don't have to be making any sort of adjustments or reminders or cues to work out where your swing needs to be?
Yeah, I think for us, like when you throw in that amount of travel, I think your body alignment gets thrown out so much.
Yeah, that's right.
And excuse me, for me, my hips always get really open. So if I've been sitting on a plane for 3 or 4 hours, and the next day you're out there playing golf, all of a sudden you're pulling it 20 yards offline. It's purely just down to your body alignment, and you haven't stretched it out properly and got things back on track to where it needs to be. For setup is one of the key fundamentals of golf, and without that, you're pretty screwed, to be honest.
We've got Marcus Fraser in with us for the PGA Golf Club for today. So what does it look like for you for the next 12, 18 months, even maybe 2 years, when it comes to where you'll be playing your golf? And will you stick with the schedule you've kind of had for this year, or will you gradually do less and less? What are you going to be doing?
Yeah, I still love playing, but I just don't love everything that goes with playing full-time golf. And obviously 2 young kids at home, it makes it very tricky now. And I'll play Vic PGA. I think Yalorn. I go up to
Super Sixes.
Yeah, so and then Japan Q School, do 3rd stage and hopefully get through to finals up there, obviously, and Hong Kong and Aussie PGA. So there's still plenty coming up for the rest of the year, but just that trip over to Europe, the last trip, I was expecting to get into a tournament in Japan the same week as Dunhill, and I didn't end up getting in, so I was already in the field at Dunhill, so I decided to go over, and then wasn't expecting to get into Madrid the following week, and then got into that, so that made it into a 3-week trip, so it changed pretty quickly.
I've got so many questions to ask. I'm sorry, I'm completely over.
Well, I know most of the answers.
But you're tired, so I don't feel so bad asking all the questions. But what I would love to know, you go from a massive tournament in the Dunhill to then playing it on the European Tour to playing in Kalgoorlie in the WPGA. How do you keep that same intensity level for a tournament like that compared to some of the other big tournaments you've done? Now, you might not be able to, and then the second part of that question is, can you get into bad habits if you drop that intensity level a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things. It's no different to, I think, when Beach was playing footy as well. Whether it was playing a team that's on top of the ladder or a team that's on the bottom of the ladder, you still want to win. And we're as sports people and professional athletes, we're sort of wired that way. That every time we go out there, we want to do well. And I think when you come back and you play a tournament at home, a smaller event, I think not only your own expectations, but probably other people's expectations that you should do well, and you want to try and live up to that. So, but in a nutshell, I think it's just that I've always had the mindset I'm only going to tee it up unless I give it 100% and try and win, or have a chance to win going into the last 9 holes of any tournament that I play in. So I try and have that mindset of just treating every single tournament exactly the same, whether it's for $7 million or whether it's for $100,000 total prize fund. So I think at the end of your career, you want to have as many of those trophies as you can possibly get, and a WA PGA is really no different to a Dunhill Links.
All right, we're about to be joined by Ian Baker-Finch on the PGA Golf Club, but BJ, have you got any questions for Marcus? You've probably asked them all just on the plane on the way.
No, we were on different flights, but no, I spent enough time with him to.
I think we had dinner every night over there, so we.
Oh, okay. I'll ask you one.
There's not much that we haven't caught up on in the last.
I'll ask you one question then, based on the experience you've just had. Did you learn anything that you didn't know about golf, about tournament golf, of being right in the thick of the action on the weekend, or even the unique surroundings of Kalgoorlie? You talked before about the red earth just off the fairway.
The big super pit that's in Kalgoorlie, the gold mine.
I'm talking about the golf course.
No, well, I actually enjoyed seeing Kalgoorlie Golf Course. Yeah, that was great. And similar to desert golf, but it's not. So I've done desert golf in Scottsdale. So, but they've done a really good job. Found out that the back nine at Kalgoorlie Golf Course was once a landfill. So there's actually a lot of undulation out there, which I didn't expect going into the week in the pictures I'd seen.
Did the quality of the golf surprise you?
No, not really. Yeah, I've seen enough. So it was kind of good to just kind of be a part of it in Sunday. And again, it was a small event, but you still, there wasn't a lot of people out there, but you could still kind of sense the excitement being involved. And when it came down to the wire in the last 4 or 5 holes, and being right there and seeing how the guys dealt with the pressure. Jared being a younger guy, Darren Beck he's 41, is he? Yeah, last win in 2009. So it's been 10 years since he had his last win, and been grinding away for a number of years. So it was good to be involved and be there all week too, and see a lot of the guys and all that kind of thing. So I enjoy it. So I kind of
visualise what that's going to be you in a
and
couple
I was
of years'
itching.
time.
I was itching because there was an amateur event too. So there was an amateur event on the weekend, which was a competition that they'd run throughout the year, the PGA, the Road to the Outback. So seeing those guys play Saturday, Sunday, I was envious because it's playing in a pro tournament conditions, setups. It's always good fun. So I was itching to have a hit, but it was just good to be involved. So, and then to be obviously the other side of it in a commentary team and see the production, and a small production albeit, but just to see what they do and how they deal with things, and it was a good eye opener.
We've got Brendon Goddard and also Marcus Fraser in this week for the PGA Golf Club. We'll take a short break and come back with our feature guest, and doesn't get much bigger than this in Australian golf, Ian Baker-Finch.
Everything you want to know about Aussie golf is in one place. pga.org.au. This is the official site of the PGA of Australia. It's the one website loaded with all the tournament, course and player news. That includes the latest on the ISPS HANDA PGA Tour of Australasia. The Find a PGA Pro directory will track down the pros near you. And here's where you can live stream golf's best on PGA TV, watching tournaments live, streaming replays, or watching the latest reports on Aussie golfers around the world. There are even video tips from the pros. So if golf's your game, this is your site, pga.org.au, from the Professional Golfers Association of Australia. Driving Australian golf since 1911.
And welcome back to the PGA Golf Club. This week it's Adam White, Brendon Goddard and Marcus Fraser with you, and we're very lucky. We're going to be joined by Ian Baker-Finch, who just recently has been named as part of the Olympic team for next year in Tokyo, and he joins us now from the States. Ian, thanks very much for your time.
Great to be with you guys. Fantastic to get back and be in touch with you from way over here. I'll be home soon. I can't wait to get back there, and really looking forward to the President's Cup in Melbourne in December.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to talk to you about, including the President's Cup. Now, I didn't introduce you as anything other than Ian Baker-Finch, because I'm not sure whether you're the coach of the Australian team, the captain, the mentor. What would you describe your role with the Australian Olympic team next year? Well,
my idea of what I do and Marcus Fraser's idea of what I do might be two different things. So it might be better that you ask Marcus, but he does call me captain.
Right.
Yeah. No, all of the above. I think, definitely mentor, captain, manager, go-to man, advice, everything. He's the man.
So who should I be asking about how this all came about? Because you are an Olympian, Marcus, and then obviously Ian getting involved. How did it all take place?
Olympic record holder, mate.
He is an Olympian.
Yeah, Finchy reminds me all the
Olympic
time.
Every time I talk to him, I remind him he's an Olympic record holder.
You make sure they set that course up nice and tough next year, Finchy, all right?
I will.
So all jokes aside, how did it happen?
Well, I think, Finchy's the one who, I suppose, approached Finchy at the start. And, once I was on the team, we obviously knew a long way out that Finchy was in charge. And Scotty and I were pretty pumped, obviously, growing up watching Finchy play all around the world and obviously win the Open at Birkdale. And, it was pretty surreal to have Finchy as our manager. And, I think Finchy got sick of me by the end of the week asking so many questions and trying to get as much info out of him and advice as I could throughout the week. It's a pretty surreal experience to have Finchy as our captain.
You can tell by his drop in the world rankings the last year. It really helped, all that advice they gave him.
I think at the start of the week, the way I was playing at the start of the week and then somehow managed to get in the mix, it was all Finchy's doing, I think.
Well, we often think.
I appreciate you saying that. It was good. It was good fun because we went out and we played practice rounds, and there was no one else around, just Hendy and Marcus and I. And that first week before the girls came along, and it was just an unbelievable experience to be a part of the first. I mean, golf had been in the Olympics twice before, 1900 and 1904, and it was great to have it back in the modern Olympiads, and everything was just really special. It's just unfortunate in a way that it was Rio, which isn't a golfing nation necessarily, but they embraced it. It was huge. It was fantastic on television. The whole week, as Marcus can attest, was fantastic for both the men's and the women's. And then I think in Tokyo, it will be even a grander experience just because Tokyo and Japan in general are just golf addicts. They're like in Australia. You know how Australians are sports fans, and no matter what's going on in sport, we all know what's happening, and we can't wait to get it or go see it. And that's how they are with golf in Japan.
Whilst we're on that, Finchy, what are some of the things that can probably improve from Rio? Apart from obviously not being a golfing nation, as you said, but first golfing experience in the Olympics. But what can they take out of that, and how can they make Tokyo kind of better?
Well, the number one thing, and we talked about it at the time, why don't they have all of the school kids come out on practice days? Because it's an Olympic event. Olympic rules are no one's allowed to view the practice events. So we were out there for 3 or 4 days in practice, and there was no one there but the teams and the team captains, et cetera, caddies. And it would have been a great opportunity to just get all of the kids in school out there to watch the great golfers of the world in such an environment, a relaxed environment, signing autographs, et cetera. So that'd be the number one thing I would change. Unfortunately, when they make rules for the Olympics, golf had to sort of fit in with the national Olympic committees and the International Olympic Committee. So it was kind of, everyone was unsure of how it would work. This time it'll be a lot better. I think they've changed a lot of things. There's certainly a lot less box ticking, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be the one thing I'd change, Marcus, that it was kind of surreal, wasn't it, in practice? There was nobody out there.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it was just the players, the captains, and everyone involved in the teams, and that was it. It was quite, and then to see so many people out there on the weekend, and it was, as you said, it was pretty weird to just not have anyone there for practice, because we know at big events around the world, practice people like to get there because they feel like they can get a little bit closer to the players and whatnot. But I think the biggest thing I would like to see change with the golf in the Olympics, I think, is the guys and the girls part of the one team as an aggregate score for the playing for a 4-person team to playing for a medal. I think it'd be I don't think there's any other event where guys and the girls play together and are part of one team in a golf tournament. So I think the Olympics would be a good opportunity to try and at some point get to that, but I don't think they're going to do it for Japan.
So could they have an individual winner for both men?
I think just
and females, and then a team.
Yeah,
team medal as well.
Both, but I think to bring the two sides of the sport together, I think it's a great opportunity to try and do it. And I think they're not able really to do it any other week of the year. But I think the Olympics is the perfect venue or competition to do
totally.
it.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree. They couldn't do it, just quickly, they couldn't do it this time because when you introduce an event into the Olympics, it has to be the same. By the way, they vote on it straight away as to whether it stays or not for the second time. But if it does stay for the second time, it has to be the same experience and run the same way the second time. Now that it's in long term, and now we can change the rules. But we just couldn't change the rules for Tokyo. But I think Marcus has hit it on the head there, that it'd be great to do a little mixed, whether we have to go like tennis, a singles and an aggregate or a doubles, whatever works. But because golf was a single event, they had to make it like a regular tournament. And we all thought, wouldn't it be better if it was the men and women together and a mixed event? And I think moving forward in Paris in 2024, that may be the way they go.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Ian and Marcus, but I think going into Rio, there was a few cynics around whether golf would work at the Olympics and whether it was required, but the experience kind of got a hold of quite a few players, and I think it was actually quite important, notwithstanding yourself, that a big name won that first year, and to have Justin Rose and Henrik Stenson fighting out for the gold medal gave it a bit more currency and a bit more sort of, gave us a bit more gravitas to it, that it wasn't just won by some unknown player, that a serious player won. And there's probably going to be more big-name players playing next year as a result of the experience. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think as Vinci said, it was a bit of a strange one to put the Olympics back in Rio, not being a golfing country, I suppose. But Japan, I think you'll see. I don't think there'll be too many guys that knock back the opportunity to go. So I think you have a look at tennis when it was put back in the Olympics. It kind of had the same chat about it. So I think now that golf's back in there, I think, especially in Japan and then in Paris in 2024, I think I think it'll really cement its spot back in the Olympics and get some momentum.
What was your view, Ian, going in and then having the experience of it to sort of look forward to Olympics ahead?
Well, I was excited about it right from the start because, as you say, for 20 or 30 years there was this talk about, does golf belong in the Olympics? Does the Olympics need golf? Does golf need the Olympics? That type of thing. We have our 4 majors. This isn't like track and field and so many other great sports where they look forward to 4 years to this one opportunity to go to compete against the world's best and win a gold medal. So there was always that cloud hanging over it. And then to make it go to Rio, and they had this Zika virus issue, which was the main reason a lot of the top players didn't play. A lot of guys in their late 20s, early 30s, trying to have kids, etc., etc. Their wives had said, "Hey, we don't want you to go. It's an opportunity to, catch this virus. We don't need it." Blah blah blah. So that just sort of put a dampener on the whole thing, when it should have been, as Scotty Hend and Marcus Fraser both know, and Minjee Lee and Sue O on the girls' team, it was just spectacular. And everyone that was there went away hoping that they can make it in 2020, and there will be no one in the top 50 or 60 in the world that relinquish their opportunity this time. It's going to be even bigger and better than last time. And we'll make sure, Marcus, that we set that course up tough. So
absolutely,
the record holder.
Get those tees as far back as possible, mate.
So it was yourself and Scott Hend last time. Take us through the experience of wearing that green and gold. You were leading after the first round. What was that like? Because we don't get many opportunities in golf to represent your country. Even from a President's Cup point of view, you're not representing your country. What was it like?
Yeah, I think for as a golfer, it's such a, I suppose, selfish sport that you're out there every single week on your own, and you're a little bit naive going into it, just assuming that it's going to be just another tournament. But when you get there, you quickly appreciate that you're part of something pretty big, and being on such a huge team like an Australian Olympic team, it just gathers momentum the whole week. So it's, and as I said to a lot of people, that as kids, all of us when we're growing up playing golf, we always had that dream of playing in major championships and competing in major championships. And Olympics was never something that we, as golfers, had the chance to do. So, just to be part of a team that is so big, it was just so different for golf, because you're out there on your own every other week.
So who picks the team? Who picks the two? Or now you did it first up, you've got mortgage on it for the rest of your life.
Finchy might need an assistant.
Yeah, that's right. And caddies or something.
Exactly.
How does it all work?
It's done on the rankings. At the moment, Adam Scott would be the number one in. Mark Leishman would be next. Jason Day and Cam Smith pretty close, third and fourth. So they take the top two. And any country that has... any player that's in the top 15 in the Olympic rankings, in the world rankings at the time of being chosen, which is the 1st of July next year. If you're in the top 15, you're in, but a nation can only have 4 representatives. So last time there was 4 American men in the team, and there was 4 Korean women, I believe, in the team. Otherwise, there was only 2 per nation, like Scotty and Marcus. So that'll be the same this time. I'd love to see Jason Day and Cam Smith start, playing really well over the next few months, and maybe we could get 4 Australians in the top 15 and have them all playing. But at the moment, it would be Adam Scott and Mark Leishman. And for the women, it would be Minjee Lee, who played last time, and she's a superstar. She has been number 1 in the world. She's currently 7th in the Olympic rankings. And Hannah Green, who won a major this year, who's also just... if you could buy stock in Hannah Green, I would be buying as much as I could afford. She's going to be a superstar. I think she's 11th or 12th in the rankings at the moment. So that's what the team would be for the women.
What's it like representing your country, Ian? I mean, you didn't do it at an Olympics, but I still maintain that, winning the British Open when you did was one of the proudest moments to follow Australian sport. And Greg Norman, similarly, when he did it, Adam Scott rolling in that putt, you get a whole nation behind you. Do you use that to your advantage, or is it sometimes, as Kari Webb said, sometimes it's a weight that's hard to accept? Boy,
speaking of great champions, Kari Webb, maybe our best ever Australian player. She's just a gem. We wear the green and gold, or the Aussie flag, the Southern Cross. Like all sportsmen that play for Australia. Brendon, you know what it's like as well. You ooze Aussie blood, and we want to do the very, very best we can. And I'm nearly 60, and I still feel like I represent Australia every day. I live over here a lot of the time now in the States, but I'm always Australian. I always will be. I sound Australian, and love coming home. Whenever I come back in October, November each year for a couple of months, I'm coming home to Australia. So it means so much, I think. We're just such a proud sporting nation. Doesn't matter about the politics or what state you're from or any of that. It's we're Aussies, and we always will be. So I think that's what makes it so special. And to be on an Olympic team like Marcus and Scotty were, and Minjie and Sue last time, there's nothing better.
I think we're all excited as golfers, Finchy, for the Olympics, but can we move on now to the President's Cup? Obviously, a pretty big event in the golfing calendar, in particular for Melburnians here in Victoria. So what are your predictions and expectations in December with the current team and how it's shaping?
Well, I expect the event itself will be an extravaganza, as it has been the last two times it's been held at the Great Royal Melbourne. No city in the world puts on a sporting event like Melbourne, Australia, and I think everyone will enjoy their visit to Victoria and the Sandbelt and everything it has to offer. The one thing the Aussies will do is they will clap and cheer for every player they know. Unfortunately, they will know a lot of the American players better than they know a lot of our own on the international team. We have 8 countries represented on our team. 3 or 4 of the guys will be meeting 3 or 4 of the other guys for the first time when they join the team in Melbourne, which makes it difficult for us to bond as a team. It's not like an Aussie team or a South African team. We're not playing Rugby World Cup here. We're playing international golf, and we've got players from China and Chinese Taipei. I mean, you think of the dichotomy there. We've got players from Korea, from Mexico, from Chile, first time ever we've had a winner, with young Joaquin Neiman. I think the team will be spectacular, and they're all great players. But it's that bonding that we just don't have. We don't have the one flag. We don't speak the one language, but we do have a great captain. And I think Ernie Els, record holder at Royal Melbourne, great player, one of the greatest ever, turns 50 this week. He'll be going to his birthday party in a couple of days over here in Florida. He'll be a great captain, and I'm sure he and Jeff Ogilvy and the other captains, KJ Choi, Trevor Immelman, they'll all get together with the team and make it as strong and as capable as possible. It'd be awesome to just see it again. We haven't won for 20 years, the international team, so it'd be fantastic to see another win at Royal Melbourne.
Is that, you just mentioned we haven't won in 20 years. It feels like to me there's a little bit that it's losing its kind of importance because of the lack of competitiveness or domination from the Americans. Is there a sense that if kind of this is a line in the sand kind of moment, that if we get walloped this time around, that there's a I guess
it's hard. We have to figure out a way to continue to promote it, even if we aren't competitive. And I think Nick Price, who was captain the last 3 times, did his best to bring the amount of points down to make it more similar to the Ryder Cup, where we don't need to have all 12 participating each day. For 20 years, all 12 players had to participate each day, so we were at a disadvantage because of our lack of strength or depth in the team, if you will. Although there was a couple of years where I thought the international team was stronger than the US. We just didn't quite get it done. You never know. This time might be the time. If we continue to have it at great venues like Royal Melbourne and continue to have great captains like Tiger Woods and Ernie Els, I think we can still, carry some gravitas, as you mentioned before, some credibility. But the players will start losing interest if we don't win. The Adam Scotts and the guys that have represented so many years and have their butts handed to them, it'll be hard for them to keep showing up if they keep losing.
Just for one final one before we let you go, Ian, just a view on the Aussie men that you follow all the time over in America on television. Adam Scott looks like he's had a little bit of a renaissance in recent times. Jason's had his issues this year. Mark's been pretty steady. And then there's obviously Cameron Smith coming through. What's your overall view of those 4 and perhaps some of the others that are emerging as well from an Australian perspective?
There's just so many young guys coming through all the time. I mean, Adam. You look at Adam. He's going to be 40 he's got to be looking at, boy, if I'm going to win another major or two, I better get cracking now. So I think he's putting a lot of effort in. He's got a young family at home and a lovely wife up there on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, and he wants to get something done soon, because what's happening now is there's so many of these young kids, and we saw it this year, guys in their early 20s winning multiple times, starting to win majors. It's going to be harder and harder for the guys as they get older to win majors. So it's becoming a young man's game. And Cam Smith, I think, has a big future. He's a wonderful player around the greens especially, so I think he should perform well in the majors. Cam Davis got his card back again. There's going to be a lot more Aussies either on the Corn Ferry Tour, which is the second tour alongside the US Tour next season. So I think Australian golf is in good shape with our representation around the world. We've got 75 players playing international golf coming out of Australia, whether it's Europe or Asia, the Chinese Tour, Korean Tour, everywhere they're away playing, and they all want to get to the US Tour to perform alongside Adam and Jason, Mark, Cam. We've just got to open the avenues for them to get over there to play, and that's what we're trying to do. Because you look at young Ryan Ruffles, he's still only 20. His sister just won the US Women's Am this year. I think he's still got a huge future. He's fit and strong and so capable. There's so many young guys like that just might step up one day and win a major and then get their straps and continue on from there. There's so many. It's hard to mention them all. But there's probably 10 guys in the top 200 in the world that are all very capable of winning any time.
And thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's always great chatting golf to you. And as you said, you'll be back in Australia for some pretty hot tournaments later in the year, obviously highlighted by the President's Cup.
Let's all get together for a game down there at Peninsula Kingswood. I think that's one of the top-rated courses in Australia and the Sandbelt right now. I look forward to a game with you guys when I get back.
Sounds good. Lock it in.
Lock it in.
RSN Podcast. All your favourite RSN shows and loads of new programs. You can listen or download wherever, whenever. And now we're on iHeartRadio, the world's #1 radio and podcast app.
RSN Podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts and at rsn.net.au. And now on iHeartRadio. It's free at your app store or head to iHeart.com.
Well, BJ, you have been over, as Marcus Fraser has been as well, at Kalgoorlie for what is the golf tournament called?
The TX Civil and Logistics WA PGA at Kalgoorlie Golf Course, and we're joined by...
PGA Championships.
PGA Championships.
Yeah.
Joined by the 2019 winner, Darren Beck. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to be on.
How many times have you spoken to Darren in the last 4 or 5 days, BJ?
Fraser and I spoke about this. I think it was 6 times. There was one rehearsal there where I stitched him up. But
You did, yeah.
well, first things first. How's the head this morning? Surely you had a few beers last night.
Oh, it's pretty calm last night. I took my billets out for a nice meal last night and just a couple of beers. So no, it was a nice, relaxing night and early bed really after I packed. So really excited to wake up this morning after having a win. So
has it sunk in yet? How are you feeling about it?
Oh yeah, it hasn't sunk in yet. I think I'm just trying to reply to all the family and friends with all the messages and support from out there. So you just realise how many people actually support you and are behind you, and you get flood of messages and calls coming through. So, hopefully I can get to everybody and thank them for the support.
Now, take us through how the hell you can have 8 putts on the final 9 holes on Sunday. This is an extraordinary achievement.
I know. Yeah, it was. I started the front 9. I had been putting quite well for the majority of the week, and just holding some long putts that you don't normally hold, and left a few short ones. I was a little bit edgy, I've got to say, the front 9, and then started to get into a bit of a feel. And once I hold a nice sort of 15 to 18 footer on 7 for birdie, I started feeling a little bit more comfortable. And then, the back 9 was just unreal. I was going in that back nine thinking I'm going to be playing for second, really, after Phelps had a good front nine, and we both hold good birdies on 10. And then, sort of got into a bit of a momentum swing there, and then he bogeyed 12 and 13, I think. And I birdied those two, and there was a big swing there. So just to have 8 putts that back nine was unbelievable. I've never done that in my career, and just the length of the putts that I hold was, I was shaking my head once they were dropping in. I just couldn't believe it.
What about 11? Did you feel 11 making that up and down from the back of the green after being greenside in 2? For me, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I have. But that was a pretty big par putt you held there from about 8 feet, I think it was. Yeah, that was just unbelievable. I just I had a fairly simple chip, even though it was on the dirt. I just thought, I just got to chip this up and run it up, and then I flew it too far and ran over the back of the green and just left myself with just an ugly shot. So I think I left myself about an 18-footer, 15-footer for par there. I think, that was just, I needed that, and that kept me going for the next. So, big swing there. That just, you need this sort of momentum, and holding those putts just keep you going.
So I'm going to ask both you and Marcus this question. As the putts keep rolling in, does the hole keep getting bigger because you're putting them so well, or does the hole get smaller because you're actually getting close to winning and you've got that going on at the same time? What sort of overrides the other? I'll ask you first, Marcus.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think it's just one of those things. Golf, when you do get on a bit of a roll, and like you said, it does sometimes look as big as a bucket, and I think it's because of your mindset. I think you start just seeing the actual putts as opposed to, if you're not putting well, I think you're trying to put a stroke on it, or you're trying to almost manipulate it and get the ball in the hole. But I think when you're putting well, like Becky did on that last 9 holes and all week, obviously you're really sort of zoned into the line and the actual putt at hand. And I think that's I watched a few of the highlights and saw Becky on that back nine. It just looked like he was right into what he was doing, and nothing was going to stop him. It was great to watch. I've known Becky for probably nearly 20 years, I would say now. Becky, I would have thought. And and for the people that don't know, like, Becky works incredibly hard. Probably one of the hardest workers out there, and obviously one of the best blokes too. So I think there was a lot of very happy people out there to see him go on and do it, but as far as when I was watching the highlights, it definitely looked as big as a bucket for you, mate, and I was cheering a few in for you as well.
What's it like, Darren? As you said, you keep putting them in, but you start thinking, I could be lifting a trophy in a few holes' time. Does it stay a big hole?
Yes, yeah, especially when they're going in from 40 feet. It did seem big, but I was in shock too. Like, just, from 40 feet, I just want to keep two putting, just get it close, so I'm not putting myself under too much pressure from 3 or 4 feet. So, it's you don't get that often. Marcus would know. It's you don't get that chance to shoot 6 under on the back nine and hold that many putts. So I'm just it'll stay in my mind for a long time.
Was there or at what point? I won't say you didn't think about it, but what point did you think I've got this in the bag? Because I think it's humanly impossible not to go there, particularly in that moment. But you obviously were good enough and mentally tough enough to then stay in the moment. But at what point did you start thinking ahead that potentially I've got this? Yeah, I think probably 12 and 13. After there was a 4-shot swing there, then I started to think, because there was no scoreboards, and I was just, I guess, just staying in the moment. I wasn't thinking of what Phelps was on. I wasn't putting too much thought into it. So after a 4-shot swing, then I started thinking, we must be close. We must be the tide, roughly around there. So then I thought, I'm back in the ball game here, and then the nerves started kicking in. And that sort of affected me on a few drives. I got a tee shot on 15.
Yeah, a little bit stuck in under, a little bit flippy, and I've done that for most of my career. So it's really trying to hit fades, really. And I've been a drawer all my life. Trying to hit fades is the hard thing. So I just had to keep working on that the last few holes, and I think drive down 16 gave me good confidence, and then a good one down 18. I just happy to hit two good shots there and just really control the nerves. It's when you're not in the winner's circle for a long time, try to control those nerves is a hard thing.
Well, so when did you know, or how did you find out? Or sorry, I'll rephrase that. Did you know? And if you did know, how did you find out you were two in front on the last? Did someone have to tell you?
Yeah, well, I was trying to find Scotty or trying to find a rules official, but, obviously there was a bit of a crowd following us around and I couldn't wave him down. So there was a couple of spectators that I kind of just said, I don't know what the situation is, what's going on.
You're too busy holing putts, mate.
Yeah, I was, yeah. I just kind of wanted to know. And, and then down 16, they said, you're one in front now. So you were all tied, and 30, 16, 17 to be two, and I thought, oh God, I've got a bit of a buffer down 18. Knowing that Phelps would hit a good drive down there, he hit two good drivers down there Saturday and Sunday right to the end, and had a crack at the green. So I thought, two shots would be safe. I could just play my game plan and play as a three-shotter.
So, Darren, as we let you go, what does it mean winning the WPGA, just from your own confidence point of view, but even just from a career point of view? What does it mean?
Oh, it's great to have that win now this time of year going into, obviously, we've got the big PGA, New South Wales Open, Australian Open, and the Australian PGA coming up. And last couple of years, it's really come down to keeping my card at the Aussie Open PGA, which is quite tough. So knowing that I've got the win behind me, it's I can go into these events a bit more relaxed, and knowing that next year's secured, and maybe look at doing a Q school. It's always a financial issue trying to put some money away, going to a tour school. So. No, really stoked, and it does make the rest of the year a lot more comfortable for me.
Well, congratulations, and hopefully it triggers more wins into the future, and thanks for joining us on the PGA Golf Club.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Darren Beck, the winner of the WA PGA. It's hard to say that, especially when you put in the sponsor, BJ, which is...
TX Civil and Logistics, our good friend, or Fraser's good friend, Zach Rard. So without him, the tournament wouldn't exist.
Very good, very good. We're going to talk some coaching next, and Craig Spence is going to join us in the studio.
Future Golf gets you playing at amazing courses. Future Golf gets you an official golf handicap. Future Golf is the future of golf. It makes you part of Australia's greatest golf community, playing free rounds at partner courses, enjoying lessons, awesome golf events, mini golf and X-Golf. Whether you're a beginner or a golf addict, Future Golf lets you get into the game your way, all from as little as $24.95 a month. And because you're listening to this show, the PGA Golf Club, you'll save 10% on your membership. Just enter the code PGA Podcast as one word when you register. Got that code? PGA Podcast. Head to futuregolf.com.au/join. Future Golf. Play your way.
And welcome back to the PGA Golf Club. We've got Craig Spence, who's come in, as he often does. In fact, as he usually does. Good morning to you.
Yeah, g'day. How you going, Adam?
Now, I've got to say that your lesson you gave last week was the talk at the school pickup late last week.
Oh, really?
We were doing some...
School pickup.
There was a few of us dads picking up the kids that were actually doing what you were suggesting with long sticks as we were waiting for our kids to come out of their classroom, trying to explain the whole difference between deep and shallow backswings for the little sort of 30-metre shot into the green. So you're having an impact.
That's good. It's the only sport you see dads practicing in the elevator or in the house, or they're not exactly
supermarket aisle, just working on sticking through the shot.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did it help you?
Well, it did, but it helped particularly a good friend of mine who is just obsessed with all of this.
Yeah.
Because he was actually doubting you very early, saying, that can't be right, you can't be doing that. And I said, just try it. So, and it has made an impact.
Oh,
so
good.
There you go.
That's what we want.
Yeah. So what are you going to do this week? How are you going to change us getting us in the schoolyard? What are we going to be doing this week?
Well, we're going to talk about two things: grip pressure, and we're going to talk about the waggle. And so for the listeners, I want them to do a little bit of homework. They've got to go on and check out highlights of Beau Hossler at the Houston Open.
Yep.
And I was watching it, and what stood out to me was that every time he went up to hit a shot, he gives the club a little bounce on the ground just before he takes it away. And so what this becomes is it becomes a bit of a trigger. It becomes a bit of a grip pressure check, and he takes the club away. So I find a lot of the people I teach, they're focused on body position. They're focused on, alignment. Often they think their alignment was out, but they're never really focused in on the pressure on their grip. Are they getting the balance of the grip? Are they getting the balance of the weight of the club? And are they taking the club away with a nice, smooth sort of balance? So if you watch that highlight clip, you will see that on every single shot, he'll bounce the club a couple of times. Now, I've also got in here, this relates to not only full swing, but it relates to putting as well. And I came across a beautiful video that we're going to play in a minute, and it's by Ben Crenshaw. And he talks about the grip pressure when putting. And he talks about how he has equal pressure in his hands, and he tries to make the putter head feel as heavy as he can. So can we play that
absolutely.
clip now?
So here is Ben Crenshaw. You can obviously watch this as well if you want on YouTube, but here is Ben Crenshaw talking about exactly what Craig Spence is talking about.
I try to put my hands on there, and I like equal pressure. I like equal pressure with the left and the right, but my grip is, I put my left forefinger over the two last fingers of my right. But the things that I feel when I grip the club are those thumbs. That's where I feel like the palms are going to where I'm trying to stroke it. I'm sensitive with the thumbs on top of the club, but I'm feeling the fingers in the back of the grip. But all the while, I'm equal with both hands, but also I'm trying to make the grip as sensitive as I possibly can.
Feel.
So, in other words, I'm trying to grip the club lightly enough to where I can feel this putter head and make it feel heavy.
This is going to be very interesting in the schoolyard sort of doing this sort of activity.
What are you going to be
for the
holding?
kids. I've got no idea. I'm not sure.
Now,
cucumber, banana.
First of all, can I just say I love the way some of the old fellas talk about the instruction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crenshaw is one of the great designers in the world now, one of the great players of all time, probably one of the greatest putters, probably top 5 putter of all time. And the way he talks about, people work on a million things. They very rarely pick up a putter and spend a few minutes getting their grip pressure right to the point where they can actually feel the weight of the head, feel the balance of it. And once you get the balance of it, then you can start to structure a bit of posture. Then you can start to swing the putter and get a little bit of head momentum, and you'll actually start to swing the putter on the correct arc. So how often do I have someone, and I know I've jumped from Beau Hossler to Ben Crenshaw here, but how often do I have someone who's watching the putter jump offline every time he swings it? So then he's watching the putter go back, and he's so now he thinks it's it's alignment. He thinks it's his, but what it actually is there's no balance in the putter head. There's no balance in his grip. So please go and watch that Ben Crenshaw video. One of the other things he talks about at length in that video is he tries to get his thumbs flat on the front part of the grip, and he wraps the fingers around the back part of the grip. And when you get that, then you can let the putter head sit in that cradle, if you like. If you get the grip correct, the putter will kind of balance in the hands. If the hands are too much out to the side or around underneath too much, you can't sort of cradle the putter in your hands. So I love the way he talks about he has to get his grip right first, then he has to get the weight of the putter head as heavy as he possibly can which requires a really soft grip, a really light grip. And then he starts to create some swing with the putter head. So if you've got a really light putter, I want you to go and get a really heavy putter, because a light putter is probably not a great idea. And try these out. Try the trigger, try the soft grip, try the balance of the putter head, and try the trigger of the bounce, and see if that starts to create a bit of
Now, you're under real pressure here, because you're currently sitting next to one of the best putters in Australian golf, in Marcus Fraser, who's listening very intently to all of this.
Do you do any of that?
How do you say it? Because you are. I mean, you are one of the best putters in Australia.
Definitely, I think the grip pressure's a big thing. I think, I can't remember who it was, but they talk about like the knuckles. If you can see some white in your knuckles, you're gripping it too hard. I think a lot of the good putters and a lot of the best putters, I think, have always, if you held the putter up, you'd be able to just slide that putter out of their hands.
Yeah,
that's probably a good way of controlling that grip pressure. But yeah, it's probably really one of the most important things, because once you're strangling that putter, you're going to manipulate it even more.
Fraser, and I'll ask you too, BJ. When you've had your bad days, do you find that you can't feel the putter head as well? It disappears throughout the stroke a little bit?
Yeah, you're sort of searching, and I think, as said before to Darren Beck, you get away. You're not when you're putting poorly, I think you're thinking about your stroke. You're not thinking about the putt that you're trying to hit. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I notice, that if you've missed a couple of putts, you start trying to change your stroke, or you try a couple of little keys in your grip that you try and change, but you're actually getting away from the putt that you're trying to hit, which is, we're trying to hold that putt. It might be an 8-footer uphill or downhill, whatever it might be, but you're getting sidetracked and you start thinking about the stroke you're trying to put on it. That's when you get into strife.
Do you work on the how the putter feels in your hands, BJ?
Well, actually, talking to Fraser years ago was one thing that I'd focused on heavily. So I just asked Fraser, just what does he think about it? Because his routine is to come into a putt, he doesn't know that I paid this much. Or he probably does. He comes in and puts both his palms on the putter and then wraps his fingers lightly around the grip. And I actually noticed him doing that. And then he explained to me that exact analogy, that if you hold the putter up, you should be able to pull out of your hand. So instantly I started doing that. And I've just recently then changed my grip, but I started doing that, became a better putter. But recently I've just changed my grip too, where I've put my right hand further down the grip and got it more in my palm, so exaggerated the feeling, which again felt like I started putting better. So it's funny you say that, because that's one thing I also do in my long game, my iron play, is that I can feel my tension at the top of my swing in particular, because I've got a bit of an over-the-top move, but I get my tension in my hands, and then I'm pulling with my hands and shoulders. So it's one thing recently in the last couple of years I've been focusing on, since the conversation I had with the putting, that I've brought into my long game, about trying to keep that same grip pressure through my whole swing. Yep. I think most of us amateurs would get the tension from the top, because it's like that pull-down motion on the grip which creates tension.
Can I just say that I think one of the greatest differences between good players and bad is that, and this applies to short game, chipping, bunker play, everything, is especially when you get a high-pressure shot, that they'll lighten the grip even more. And what that creates also is that, and you would have felt it, is the awareness of the putter, of the club head. The club head becomes heavier. And I think that then, as you swing the club head, the weight of the club head back and forth, it teaches you path to some degree. Because
there's almost a natural path.
There is a natural path. Because that's how the great players found the best technique, right? They from ball flight and from the club head telling them what to do, really. They didn't say,
So, and that's your point too, or Fraser's point about when you're putting badly, you're trying to manipulate the club face, you're trying to my stroke's too far inside or out, you lose concentration of speed and everything. But when you're putting well, and recently I'm just grip pressure, and you're thinking about your line and pace, and you just stroke it. You're not thinking about your stroke, and you're like, geez, I'm putting well today.
Yeah.
But then you got to try and, at the end of the round, I try and assess, well, why did I putt well? Well, it's because it was my grip pressure. I wasn't thinking about my stroke. I was concentrating on line. So it's then having the ability to understand why you actually putted well.
So when you're at the Albert Park driving range, they've got fantastic facilities for putting as well. How many people use that compared to how many people are up on the top tier of the driving range trying to belt the ball over the back fence?
This applies to, well, first, the answer is no one really, right?
Because it's a great facility.
But this applies. It is a wonderful facility, and you can always come down and see me there at the Albert Park driving range, 96 Golf. All right, so, but this applies not only to putting, chipping, but also good players will spend a minute between every single shot. And you watch them; they'll move the club in their hands a few times. Often they don't even realise they're doing it. And what they're doing is softening the club, balancing it, and then they move into the ball again. It's a little pre-shot routine practice, really. But I want everyone listening to try from now on to spend the first 5 minutes of your chipping, putting, pitching, or full swing session, and just get some balance in the club head. Don't hit a ball for 4 or 5 minutes until you feel like you've actually got some weight and you can feel the head heavy.
Yeah, it actually makes perfect sense. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Creating that awareness of the club head and the face, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, well, once you got the awareness of the club head, you should get an idea of what the face is doing too. Because the face, when you change the angle of the face, it changes the weight of the head. And it also changes the sensitivity of where you feel the head. So if I spin the face open, it'll change the weight and feel more on the back of my palm, whereas if I'm balanced, I can feel the pressure equal in my hands. And Crenshaw references that many times. He says, I want to feel equal pressure in my hands.
No, it makes perfect sense.
It's huge.
So back to the waggle that Craig was talking about before. When it comes to you, Marcus, what's your pre-shot routine or a trigger for you, sort of, so you got that checklist going off in the back of your mind as to what you need to do to hit a good shot?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just always trying to get the club away from the ball as quietly as I possibly can. So I have a really bad habit where I pull back into my heels, and that's where I get inside, and then I get over the top. And that's one of the things that Dennis and I always go back to. But I think as far as triggers, you have a look at the really top players. You have a look at Stenson. He's got that little move. He's like a preset. Sergio had that waggle for a long time, still does. Duffner, they've got that, really got that, and it just looks like it's part of their routine. As soon as they're ready to go, they go, and it's off and away.
Matty Wolf's the extreme version of it these days.
I actually wrote his name down, and a great trigger was Roger Davis's knee press.
Yeah,
I loved that.
Yep.
That was one of my favourites. He would press that right knee in, pre-setting impact to some degree. And Matt Wolf, that's what he's doing. He's pre-setting impact a couple of times and then gone. So triggers huge, grip pressure's huge also.
No, fantastic.
They kind of match up together, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
Yep. No, thank you very much. We'll see you again next week. That was good. That was really good. Really enjoyed that. Before we let you go, Marcus, because while you're here, Bernd Weisberger won again this week. It's the third time he's won this year. Second time he's won a Rolex Series event. And he was sort of off the scene there for a while with wrist injuries and the like. How good is he?
Yeah, I think I first played with him in Korea a few years ago, and he towed me up pretty comfortably. And I said then I thought he was potentially a top 10 player in the world. And then he obviously went and he played well. He got the top 50 in the world, and then he got injured. But this year, it's amazing what an injury does for you sometimes. It gets you. You know, we go on sometimes that we can't stand the game, but when it gets taken away from you for a little bit, you realise pretty quickly how much you love it.
Cam Percy's a perfect example.
And
a similar sort of injury.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happened to Bernd this year. He's come out all guns blazing, and I think he's leading the money list over there at the moment, and 2 Rolex events, and obviously win in Denmark as well. It's a pretty fast start, and it sets him up well for the back end of the year with all the final series.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. As we said at the start of the show, you've come straight off the red eye. Haven't been to bed since playing yesterday. It's great to get your insights, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thanks, mate.
Marcus Fraser joining the PGA Golf Club. BJ, thank you again.
Thanks, mate.
Course, what do we call you now? On-course golf commentator or former Essendon and St Kilda footballer?
On-course expert commentary.
Expert through the experting.
Okay.
Very good. We'll catch you next time. That is the PGA Golf Club for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the program, and we'll do it all again next week. 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 We'll do it